lingo and words about this, but I know just talking to people around the world, different people take this initiative more than others. I know in Europe, Nelson, so many people were talking about sustainability, green, because I think with the EU, many people made that kind of a mandate and really plugged it in, whether they're talking about these bonds that are around sustainability, but also I think you brought it to our attention in New York, certain initiatives in certain parts of the country in the US were taking this initiative. So maybe Nelson, if you don't mind introducing yourself, introducing your partner, and then kind of sharing a presentation of what does this all mean and how could this help agents, brokers, developers, and people wanting to get into this very fascinating and interesting field.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate you inviting me, including me. I've been in commercial real estate for over 40 years. My focus has always been on value add and value creation in commercial properties and portfolios. I've been involved in acquisition, development, disposition, all of those fields, property management, project management. I just have a knack for trying to look for ways to save and look for ways to improve a property's income. And so energy efficiency kind of stood out a few years back as one of the key factors, although it didn't stand out necessarily as a high priority because a lot of times it's passed through the tenants and whatever, so it wasn't really a high priority. But I got involved with the United States Green Building Council about 8 years ago, and found that it's a great outlet of education and training and information that has everything to do with green buildings and LEED certifications. LEED meaning leadership in engineering and environmental design, and it's been proven out through many organizations like JLL, CBRE, Cushman and Wakefield, and various research data that green certified buildings sell for over 20% more, and they generate over 12% higher rents, and their occupancy is greater. So it's becoming more and more transparent to the occupiers and insurers and mortgage companies. The performance of energy is becoming a much more of an important thing. And so I view, and I believe this is true, that sustainability is becoming one of the fastest growing specialties in commercial real estate because there's so many forces pushing transparency to the forefront, how performance, and so I got together. Actually, I got involved with EXP because of the forward-thinking ESG strategies that you were putting forward. And Bob Greenlee was part of that initial program. Bob and I are partners. He's the founder of a company called ESG Impacts, and he is also a 40-year veteran with a specialty in valuation and green regarding things involving environmental valuation. And so I'm going to let Bob take it from here and give you a little introduction of yourself.
Well, I will add a little bit that as I'm also a broker or a licensed salesperson, to be more precise, and I some years ago have started connecting my brokerage practice to my appraisal practice. So, for example, if I was called to do an appraisal that didn't lead to brokerage, I wouldn't accept the assignment. I wanted to know that there was a connection between each aspect of my work. In 2017, I joined a national firm. In 2018, Larry Fink came out in his annual letter to investors, to his portfolio companies, that and started talking about ESG. And I thought, wow, that just captures everything that I've been thinking about in terms of sustainability and conservation. Prior to that, conservation easement had been a big focus of mine. And it was just kind of, it captured everything. So then I added sustainability. I'll do an appraisal if it leads to brokerage, if it's in the world of sustainability. And one thing's led to another. And when we were first starting to connect with Nelson, we had written ESG metrics. So that would yield a score. Every building could be scored based on its ESG attributes. And that was important. It was new. It was really, really interesting, but it was important in that the score connected to a value, and they became before scores and values. And then they would lead to some or help identify sustainable asset management strategies. And those strategies could be deployed. And then there would be an after. So what the score and what the value did was kind of bookend the asset management strategies. And it would tell you that if your strategy cost X, your benefit was Y, and you realize that through a formal appraisal process. And if you're then now looking to advise a client, and so I gather most of y'all's shoes. I mean, I'm interested in providing service to my brokerage clients, and I want to help them understand kind of when and how to position a property for sale. And if you go into a property today for an acquisition, and you're not thinking about, and the due diligence associated with that acquisition doesn't include sustainability, then you're going to be surprised 10 years from now, 7 years from now, whatever it is, because you'll absolutely be selling into a more sustainably focused, oriented marketplace. So today, if you feel like maybe this is a little early, it is. We're on the cutting edge of this, and it's a great session, Jim, to be hosting today. This is what the market is coming to. If you're in a gateway city, or if you're in institutional real estate, if you're in a REIT, this is already front and center for you. It has been for probably since 2018. If you're in a place where maybe a lot of us are, where let's say our average sales price is kind of 3 to 10 million. But Nelson and I talked a little bit about that yesterday. Is that kind of the range where most of the agents on this call, or is that kind of what their range is? I can tell you that if you look at LEED and Energy Star rated properties on CoStar, and we have a national CoStar account that, so we have a running list, and the average sales price for LEED or Energy Star certified buildings, 11 million. There are some at 2 to 5, and there are some at 100, but the average is 11, right? So if for no other reason, this is kind of where I go back to where I started, which was I wanted to do appraisal and sustainable brokerage. And I wanted to know that I was in a better place than I was when I started. So if I'm on the 3 million side of things, and I'm in a small market outside of DC, and if I'm, 3 to 5 would be a pretty healthy deal for me. If I can jump that up to 11 million on average, that's a good thing. So for me, sustainability came out of my desire to do more in brokerage. And I suspect that that's where all of us on this call are today. So I'll stop there for the moment, but just to make that connection between the sustainability and the brokerage, it's an economic decision, and what we're doing are the economics of ESG.
Yeah, so we have a brief presentation. Bob has the slides, so why don't we put that on the screen?
Is that the one you want?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So everything comes down to money when it comes to real estate. And we're trying to focus on creating a pathway or connecting the dots between sustainability and profitability. Because if there's not a business case, nobody's going to do it. Great ideas, hug trees, save whales, great. But it's all about the money. And we want to show you where the money is, how to get it, how to apply it, and how to help your clients by being having a competitive advantage of a knowledge and capability that your competitors don't have. So that's why we're growing this awareness in the commercial real estate communities. And so the value proposition basically is that there's if you can improve your sustainability and that really does not only come down to the lowering your energy costs or lowering your water usage, but it also has to do with improved air quality, improved lighting, improved which has an impact on the occupants' productivity and health. And so if we can show very directly how the occupants will be 10 to 15% more productive in their jobs, that could actually create so much more impact to the value to the occupant. And so we have those measurement tools available. But and also just wasting, our buildings are wasting an average of 30% of their energy usage. And by redeploying that energy usage into more efficient equipment, then you're actually using the money you're throwing in the toilet to support your building efficiency. So we are through some of our tools and finance capabilities, we're also aligning the interest of the tenant and the interest of the landlord. And then we advise on how to address those things in the leases. We call green leases or green lease clauses. So we can actually make an impact so that the people that are getting the benefit are paying for it. And and the result is that higher revenue and lower costs is higher NOI, which means higher price, and also more people there are more investors internationally that are interested in high performing properties. And we believe that there are a lot of tenants and occupants looking for spaces that are high performing. And so we'll get a higher, quicker lease up on new projects. And we'll have an expanded buyer pool when it's time to sell. So you
Also,
want to
add to that real quick, just this issue with reducing risk, because there are those, ESG sustainability, it is a risk management tool as much as anything else. And if you're able to decrease lease up risk, the operating risk we've already talked about, the disposition risk we've actually touched on. And that's really a key for you guys today to keep in mind that wherever you view the market today, you have to look out 7 to 10 years for a holding period, and you have to address what's happening on the exit. And that disposition risk is something that you can lower for your clients through a focus on sustainability. The lower cap rate obviously then leads to a higher valuation as well. And we're in the early days of frankly of kind of proving that out. But each of the appraisals that we're working on with sustainability features being built into the equation are finding valuations that are, I think Nelson said 20%. We're seeing 15 to 20% kind of all day. So this is great advice to your clients, and it's also just a way to be tuned in when you're in kind of a know your client sort of perspective. If they know that you're the one who can take them to a 15 to 20% property valuation increase, that's huge. That's huge for all of us. So just that this is an economic reason for doing the right thing for the planet, for sure.
You want to move to the next slide? No.
I think you like this one. The ayes have it.
Yeah, yeah, this is your creation. You want to explain this?
Um, this is having fun with ESG, but you know, this is revolutionary in many respects. This is democratizing the process. This is more maybe the S in ESG, environmental, social, and governance. Uh, we're it's important to us that we're capturing the S in ESG. It's perhaps not as important to everybody, but it is to us. And we feel like this is one of the areas where we can really bring something to the culture, to the communities, to the neighborhoods in which we're operating, to the surrounding properties, to a subject that we're leasing or selling or whatever we're doing. It's a great opportunity. The standardization, again, we've talked about ESG and sustainability being kind of new to real estate. It has not been new to corporates and equities and to Wall Street. It was introduced in 2005. We talked a little bit about the BlackRock letter in 2018. But ESG now through corporate sustainability, for those of you who are in corporate services, this is also something to pay attention to, the standardization of ESG, the standardization of sustainability and resiliency is happening through this process of kind of analyzing ESG attributes. Analysis, we've talked about mobilization. There's a great opportunity to mobilize assets, to mobilize the interests of your clients. If you have an area of expertise that no one else has, that's just good niche management. We should all have a specialization. If you're already specializing in retail or industrial or office or lodging or whatever it is that you're involved in, to be able to add the sustainability component to that is going to be very helpful to your clients. Again, on the resilience side, think about trying to buy today hurricane insurance. It's particularly timely. Try to buy hurricane insurance in Florida. Try to buy wildfire insurance in California or hail insurance in Nebraska. Right, it's difficult to get. It's over if you can still afford it. I have clients operating out of Washington who sold entire portfolios in Florida because the insurance costs are now prohibitive. So then I'm going to go to the orange bubble on the slide, externalizing DE&I. One of the things that we've coined is this expression equity squared, which is the equity in real estate and connecting that to the equity in the DEI equation. And to have the ability to provide real estate ownership to underrepresented groups is really important, and it's a big part of what we're doing, and it may be of interest to some of you all as well. The mechanize and digitize, the smart buildings, think about all of the opportunities to be the expert and come into a commercial asset. And I mean, in residential you see it perhaps more than you do in commercial, particularly the kind of the 3 to 10 million commercial. This is a great opportunity to be the expert and bring in the tools and the metrics, the measuring, monitoring. This is not just a one-time sale. This is now you're becoming the advisor to the client and to the building, which is really interesting. The monetization, I want to come back to that one because we do have a whole set of services that we're looking for help with, and Nelson will talk a little bit about that in a minute, and I'll bring that slide up. And the transactionalizing, the due diligence we just talked about, the ownership and operating strategies, the sustainable asset management strategies, which we talked about, and coming in and again doing the score, doing the value, then implementing the strategy and then realizing the benefit. Well, you can do that with a cost benefit analysis as well. So you can go to your client and say, it's going to cost you $100,000 to do X. And as a result, your valuation is going to increase by $500,000, whatever. I mean, you can do that math, and you can really tell a very compelling story, to your client. And then you're set for disposition. You have to, you guys know, you go into the deal thinking about the exit. And this gives you a really tight framework for thinking about what the exit looks like.
I think Keith has a quick question. Keith, so you don't forget, what's your question?
Actually wrote it down, Jim, so I wouldn't forget.
Thank you. What's your question, and we'll move on.
You mentioned standardization, and you say that's happening. I don't really know what that means in this world. My first question would be, who governs this whole thing, ESG, where you now have standardization that you're saying is occurring? I don't understand.
Okay.
Great question, actually.
It is great. And so SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, is where this will originate. And it has started at that level. It was offered, I want to say, in March or April or so, their first set of standards, and they were within 3 weeks. I bet they were shot down. They were trying to get, and Nelson, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a very quick response from the ownership community saying, you're asking us to do something we can't do. We need to rethink that a little bit more, and so that's happening. But it's that process is happening. We're working with the Mortgage Bankers Association and their standards organization within MBA. They have accepted all of the E attributes, the environmental and energy attributes that are being put into the metrics, into the standards. That and then the S and the G are coming behind it. The S again is social, and that's a big group of standards, and each one of these in their adoption probably takes a year more of processing and buying into by various groups. We had a call this morning. We were talking about how do you think about standards as the FICO score. Right when they were first being introduced, they were a couple of accountants that introduced the what then became known as the FICO score. But the idea was the first out, and we're the first to have ESG metrics. Whether we become the standard or not, we should be early enough. We should be one of the top 3. And in the end, that's kind of what the FICO score is driven by, Transwestern and whoever the other 2 are, for example. So you'll see it coming through MBA. You'll see it coming through the insurance industries. You'll see it coming through the SEC. You'll see it coming through the universities and colleges. And that buy-in is critical. Now, here's where you're, I don't want to say confused, but here's where you're getting conflicting information, maybe, Keith, and that is that the SEC has already come up with one standard that's been refuted, or at least for the moment. That it will come back in some way, shape, or form, right? There are too many kind of local laws. If you're in New York, the local laws are starting to drive this towards net zero. But in the world of equities, there is no standardization. There are scores all across the board, and it's one of the biggest. When ESG gets pushed back, that's one of the areas where it's getting pushed back. So it comes back to the days being, this is early days. It comes back to maybe what did the FICO score look like when it was first introduced, but there's a need for it. There's a need for it to be standardized, and they're at the highest levels of insurance, banking, investing. Those industries, they will finish what they've started. Terrible answer
to the
to
next
a
slide.
complex question. Go ahead, Nelson, sorry.
So yeah, we talked in terms of green premiums and brown discounts. So, you know, as we're coming in, I just mentioned the premium that an owner will get by having high performance properties, and the depreciation or lower value attributed to poor performing properties. And I know Moody's already has a climate score that they're putting into their metrics and selling to insurance companies. So it's becoming much more of an issue for the insurance companies to be able to decide who they're going to insure and what requirements are going to be there for them to accept insurable properties. And that's one, I say that's like the big sucker punch to the whole real estate industry. If you can't get insurance, you really, you know, it increases the risk so much. You can't get financing, you can't get investors, you can't get it to work. So that's going to slow down transactional, the number of transactions. And it will make a big differential between what investors are willing to pay for higher risk properties to make that the value add. We buy the property, we make these improvements now, you know, so green premiums, yeah, we have a market for those. So being at the forefront of being able to provide that kind of data, and we see ESG impacts kind of as a tool for any of the EXP agents to consult us, and you bring a project and we'll, you know, collaborate with you and your clients and share in the fees that we generate. And so well, this is kind of what's the secret sauce of how do we make money in ESG? And so first, it starts with understanding what your performance level is now. A lot of people don't know. We can do a low cost analysis of where your performance level is, and also create a roadmap for what low hanging fruit can you take advantage of to improve your performance, your ESG score, and move that category from brown discount to green premium. So we provide ESG consulting. In some cases, we've been looking at being a fractional chief sustainability officer, outsourcing that. But we want to help an owner that's considering an acquisition or a disposition, where what they need to do to get the most money out of their project. So we're launching a tool. We call it the triple bottom line analysis. It's a planet, people, profit, impact analysis. And it helps take a view of the net present value of cost benefit. You know, you spend $1 million and you get $60 million in benefits, and you know, you can show, hey, 15 million goes to the financial side, you know, 20 million may go to the social side. We might measure the value of the carbon that we've saved, and the value of the you know, the environment, social environmental improvements that we're creating. And so that's a tool that's not really readily available, but we're making it available free as a tool, and then customized solutions that we can work with somebody to get a customized project, and we'll charge a fee for that and share that with the agent, brings us those opportunities. And the future of embodied and carbon credit trading. It's brand new. There's a lot going on in that right now. We're pretty well connected with platforms and trading platforms for environmental credits, and so we can help identify and monetize those credits in the project. And the things that where I'm strong, and this is kind of where I come from, is the real estate services of how do I help the owner make more money. And that starts with a plan of understanding what incentives are available to them through the IRA and other programs. Yeah, we have programs for rebates, grants, tax credits, and tax deductions, and the utilization of accelerated depreciation through cost segregation and some of the other studies like 179D, 45L, and just understanding those nuances so that you stack all of those together and you may save as much as 30% of the initial cost. So that's kind of where we help create the pathway and understanding of what do you do, how does it impact the outcome, and that builds the business case of why to do it, and the consequences of not doing it. You know, if you ignore it because you're just chasing down the lowest cost, yeah, you might save money up front, but it's going to cost you down the road. And so if we can help make it easier to do those things, and so doing those things include financing facilities. So I've been involved and I've got a guest, and I brought Tim Crockett on the line, who's also been involved in a property assessed clean energy financing, which is a fantastic product. It's an idea. It's adopted in 40 states across the U.S. and it benefits probably 80% of the population. So just the basics of property assessed clean energy is it takes the ability to create capital for water and savings and utilities, water savings and energy production like solar, batteries, all that stuff, and it puts it in a category like property tax assessment. It's actually a private assessment that's if it needs to be collected through the property taxes, it can, but it's an assessment on the property, not on the individual. And the rules are a little bit different state by state, but it's pretty much trying to take the burden off the owner from having to pay for it out of their pocket and apply it to the property so that it's, it can have a useful amortization from 15 to 30 years. And so it's also transferable from one owner to the next with no qualifying required. So once it's put into place and the assessment's set, then and a lot of times when it's a property tax, it's not considered a capital improvement that can't be collected from the tenant, but it can actually be passed through. The payments can be passed through to the tenants. They get the benefit of the lower operating costs, and they also pay for it, in a little bit higher property tax. But the overall idea is that the savings are going to be greater than the cost, and we're redeploying wasted energy and low performance equipment into higher performance equipment and higher performance properties. So we have a relationship with a company called Incentifine, which they actually can provide individual reports for a property for their tax ID number, and they can bring a report that identifies every opportunity for incentive from the federal, state, local, utility company, and manufacturers that you might qualify if you're doing a renovation. And Tim also has a product that's very unique. It's called the Smart Water Valve. It pretty much has been proven to save 20% on the water utility costs, and it's a very inexpensive application that provides great benefits and can be financed through a PACE. And if PACE it's not always the option for everybody. There's several other finance options that we also help steward. There's companies that do on utility bill financing, which we can help provide that. There's there's sustainability of service companies that actually provide financing and like lease financing. They'll put it in, they'll operate it, and you get the savings from that. And we also help connect our facilities with the first lien holders. And so we work with organizations like Comlo and others at searching out opportunities. We stack our capital in the capital stack and hopefully provide a lower weighted average cost of capital and a better, higher leverage than you might get in today's market. And so there's a lot to it. It's pretty complicated, you know, but we try and make it easy. We have design build engineers that can take a project and analyze it and give you, and not free, but not overly expensive for what you get, and help identify the energy conservation measures that and how much those impact the property. And then add renewable energy and EV charging and all those things. We're a one-source opportunity to help you deploy those anywhere in the country.
Nelson Tim asks, can any of these initiatives be executed quickly? And I would say that almost everything on this slide can be, quickly as a matter of time, but feasibility studies, appraisals, et cetera, audits, scoring, all that, they can be implemented. Any of them can be done today. If you have a client that has a service and needs something today, if they needed to connect to their lender, and so let's say, you've got a due diligence period of 45 or 60 days, they can all be done within that kind of a time frame. And Nelson, if you want to speak to kind of the arrangements that we could have potentially with other EXP and other agents, but any one of these can be initiated right away. The Chief Sustainability Officer is an ongoing. The sustainability as a service is ongoing, but they can all be implemented right away.
Yeah, so as our national brokerage, we have, I'd say there's three levels in this, and one is bird dog. Hey, I'm working with a client. I know that they're planning on doing a major renovation. Hey, let's introduction, and we'll give you a referral fee for that, or bird dog fee. If you're actually working with a client, like Max actually has a client that he's identified, and I don't want to get back with you on that because we've got some solutions and we're working on that. But he's actually the conduit to the agent owner. And so we combine what we know, we get it to Max, and maybe he'll call a meeting, or we'll give him data that he can share. And if that turns into an opportunity, then there'll be a higher referral fee. And as we go, I think that we started with this, and I think it has legs and opportunities. So the idea started with, hey, we're going to create a green army. People that are interested can join our team and go do audits. We find people that want a ESG audit, not a virtual one, but actually go out and do it and get a real audit. And that's really a great low-hanging fruit to have discussions with owners who are interested in this, to talk about their brokerage needs. What are they wanting to, what are their, what are they planning on selling? What are they planning on buying? How can we help? And so we might get in the conversation before they decide they want to sell anything, and create the relationship. So I believe that real estate brokerage is based on relationships and trust. If we can show that we know more, that we can provide better advice and better outcomes, then we're the natural choice. And so we want to build a brokerage group that wants to deploy sustainable practices. And so we're going to grow that under the XP's group. But that's early, and we think we can work together with like the corporate services group. They're reaching out, and we think we have a real good add-on to help corporations that are doing what they're doing. And we also Jeff Finn's group, we think that we're a great add-on for what they have, and can help them in what they're doing. And so and truly sustainability and solutions transitions every product type. And it's needed on all fronts, from office, industrial, retail, multifamily, hotel, motel, senior housing, all those kind of things. And so in every case, if we can lower their utility usage and increase higher effective efficient buildings that produce higher cash flow and lower costs, then that's kind of where the business case starts and ends.
Nelson, I know you and Bob have so much on this, and I love it that you want to create a green army in two ways: green for sustainability, green to make money also, and then how do you scale? And that's really cool. As one day, there's always a C-suite, something, chief sustainability officer, to look at it. I think that's something to put a good program together, as this is new and early, like we've seen many trade groups. This is something that will get legs, and we've seen this around the world already. It's happening. Max, you have a question?
Yeah. Now, I was thinking about the big thing, that has happened in the past with the environment and all that. And I was wondering if there's any way we can somehow think about doing something that would take care of big environmental disasters that we had. I got involved with environmental back, in 1984, when Bhopal, India, they had that big explosion for Union Carbide and killed that many people. And we see trains carrying chemical and flammable product that they carry, and they destroy a whole area. Is there any kind of thought gone to that, so we can look at the operations of a bigger corporate or company, and they kind of put something together and submit it? I don't know if it's going to be to the owners of the company or the government, and get involved in cleaning up such a mess from happening again and again.
Our focus is real estate. We can't solve all the world's problems. So there are connection points, and I think that's what you're describing.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So I wouldn't, so how would we approach that? And again, what we're doing is measuring and monitoring and advising and that kind of thing. But then look at the materials that are used in residential and commercial construction. So if you had a major accident, but your house was better built and provided a better shield, and you were safer within your own premises, does that keep the train from exploding? No. Does that keep you safer while it's happening? Potentially. And that would be the kind of thing. We talked about the equity squared, in DEI, for example. It's not that we're trying to solve that world problem. It is that we're trying to provide real estate solutions that assist in some of those, addressing some of those issues. So I think the key really is we can only have so many lanes, right? And so we want to keep our eye on the ball. We want to be sure that we're in real estate. Can we help address the kind of question that you're raising? Yes, absolutely, but within that context.
Thank you.
One of the things that got our attention earlier, and resiliency to climate disasters. And this year's been one of the worst years that we've ever experienced. And it's being compounded tomorrow in Florida. We don't even know how bad it's going to be, but it's looking pretty bad.
Yeah.
So, the metrics that have been being considered from FEMA, from reinsurance companies, from insurance companies, and how do you do actuarial calculations on how much should we charge for premiums and what are our disaster risks going to be? And so we've been working with a resiliency group who is formed a national organization called Future Proofing America. And they're working on a strategy with the insurance companies and reinsurance companies on how to provide funding for resiliency. They're taking models like was proven in Florida called Babcock Ranch, which was the only thing standing. And I don't know, it was a hurricane or two ago where everything was destroyed, but that neighborhood looked at the metrics of what materials were used, how was it constructed to be able to continue to stand in the face of all that destruction, and applying some of those standards pre-disaster. So that, provide some resiliency financing through the insurance companies where they're going to invest $1 today to save $6 in the future that they're going to pay out in claims. And so we're looking at funding for projects and all around the country with Future Proofing America on that.
Hey guys, pick up on Babcock Ranch. And Friday, read or Google Babcock Ranch. It's just south, I think, of Tampa. So it's right in the track. And it'll be really interesting to see, how it makes out in this event.
Sure
but
will.
it's already survived one fairly direct hit, and it'll be when everything else around it, as Nelson said, was demolished. Let's read the paper on Friday and see how Babcock Ranch makes out in the storm.
And Nelson and Bob, through all this, how can people connect, plug in? Do you have other courses, programs, kind of a weekly, monthly, webinar, seminar to educate? Because as we looked at the chart, boy, there's a lot, in this, and it's just starting. And obviously, we need some other government, bigger agencies like SEC or Mortgage Brokers Association or insurance agency. And we know that takes time, right? One of the things is when I was talking to others on procurement, adoption, especially with the big one, the residential mortgage part, I'm like, wow, it takes a long, long, long time. So how can people plug into both of you to learn more and get involved?
I would say that United States Green Building Council in your region has a chapter, and our chapter, which I'm chairman of the Texas region, we're launching a new YouTube channel. Starting, we're doing our first filming on that in November, but we've hired a professional YouTube channel builder to help us create the content and have regularity of content that addresses, some of the why, how, and what do we do next on that. So there's 30 years of a library of information that's offered through U.S. Green Building Council, and to be a member is very inexpensive. It's like $100 a year for an individual, and you get all these resources and a community of experts. And so coming from an organization that's nonprofit and doesn't have a dog in the hunt, to make money exactly, membership and sponsorship they want out of this, but it's mostly an education platform. So I'd start there. That's probably the most robust organization to connect with. I recruited Tim to be on our regional council, and he's been a great contributor. And we're having new regional council elections coming up in the next year, and we're reaching out to community members who are in real estate that are leaders in the field, say, hey, join our organization, help us to tell the story, help us carry the torch out to the community, because the timing is more important than ever right now because of the pressures. And big data and transparency are causing more focus on it than ever before. I mean, people, started out, well, I guess it's a healthy building. Is it was approved by by the government, local government, but no, the lowest cost minimum standards that are being built to, that they are not serving the future and sustainability. And so, by building a little bit higher level is the key to getting some of those financial benefits. If you're just building standard, you're not getting any of those incentives. But you build to a 5% higher standard, and the door opens up for all kind of money. Is that five, Tim? 5?
Yep. So Tim, would you like to add anything? Because I know you've been called out, so I'd like to give you a chance to say anything and add your 2 cents or advice.
It's great to be with everyone. I think Nelson, covered everything. Couple of just details like on the water valve. I mean, they are deployed on individual homes. They're on NRG Stadium where the Houston Texans play NFL football. They're on hospitals, high-rise condos, office buildings, apartments, anybody with a water meter all over the world, maintenance free, made in America, no supply chain issues. They're really a very powerful tool. Multiple independent engineers have vetted the savings of about 20%. And I tell you, on commercial real estate, if you can take $1 of OpEx and push it to the bottom line, at a 5 cap, you've created $20 in value for every dollar you can save. That obviously is a variable of what cap rate you're selling at, but that's simple math. So it's a powerful tool, nothing else in the world like it. It's got patents on it. So in the PACE financing, that's a very powerful tool. I'm like a lot of you, a 40-year real estate broker, veteran in the industry. And those are 2 of the biggest, most powerful game changers that I've seen in my career. So if you need more information, either of those, you can reach out to Nelson or me, and I'd be glad to talk in more detail. But great group, like what everybody's doing, like the energy, and there's so much potential and great ideas that can be shared and leveraged and put together to really serve our clients. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Tim. Final words, Nelson and Bob. I love helping you with all of us growing the Green Army.
Thank you. So I guess the final word is that we're at the greatest economic opportunity for the energy transition. We're looking at an investment of over $40 trillion over the next 10 years. I mean, it's even hard to fathom how big it is and how early it is, because there's such small amount of adoption relative to the market size. And so, and there's no Google, there's no Amazon, there's nobody, that's standing out as the place to go. And so we have an opportunity to establish a leadership role at EXP in our own brokerages. And the pressure's on. I mean, it's not going away. The climate disasters are increasing. More focus on it. You can ignore it all you want, but it's happening, and we got to deal with it, or it'll destroy our way of life. And so I feel it's the most important work I've ever done, and I'm very enthusiastic about it. And I think the next 10 years are going to be fantastic for those that are really taking a leadership role here.
I think EXP has recognized that with the recent hiring of Donald Cherry, who's the VP of Sustainability, I think is the title. And we've had a couple of meetings with him and early in his days at the helm. And he's got great ideas. His first issues will be centered around compliance for the company, risk reduction. But if you think about everything related to ESG and real estate, and to be a real estate company, just opens up a tremendous platform for all kinds of ESG, sustainability and resiliency kinds of initiatives, driving higher values, the whole value proposition that we talked about, and then just the timing of everything. You guys are very much here on the cutting edge of this, and it's going to be one of the most important things. But everybody says it's out here a little ways. Well, it's not, because again, if you're buying something today, your due diligence just has to include recognition of these sustainability issues. So this is real life, real time. It's right now, and it's profitable and lucrative.
Nelson,
One more
Bob,
thing
Tim?
I would like to say is, one of the recent projects we've done, we looked at as is, as expected to be complete, and then as stabilized. And we're seeing a value delta of us on this particular project in the 15% increase just from the sustainable improvements that we're doing.
Again, thank you, Nelson, with that. And I think it's great to be an early $100, join the Green Army, take a leadership role. I always say try to be an active member on something that we know is going to get legs. Things are being talked about, maybe not so much in America, but I know in Europe, boy, I hear a lot of this conversation. They really are doing it in other parts of the world. So it's great to be part of the Green Army to make a difference and change. So we just encourage people to join us always on Top Agent Nation Commercial Wednesdays. Join our Back Agent Pass so you can get the decks, connect with all the speakers, get to learn a lot more. And if you're interested in being a speaker, please reach out to our team. We always want to bring very innovative, creative, commercial ideas in front of everyone. So again, everyone, thank you for joining us. Have a great Wednesday and have a great week. Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much,
having
everyone.
us.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.